Welcome to Magical Aspirations, a podcast for magical people,
where we aspire to gather all of the knowledge that magic has to offer.
A place to illuminate and demystify all things magical.
We are your magical co-hosts. I am Annalisa.
Reverend Raven here.
Adriana.
Tune in every Tuesday where we're dropping new episodes every week about our own personal magical stories.
Have a spanking good time.
And sprinkle some interviews in between.
There is so much magic here. Keep coming back every week. Stay magical.
Stay magical.
Stay magical.
Reverend Raven here, bringing you a new segment for Magical Aspirations, Front Porch Chats with the Country Crow. I'm really excited to be in my new place here, out on the farm and reconnecting with the land. There's something really magical about being able to connect with the place of your ancestors. And I've been learning a lot of lessons along the way. As you all know, we've been talking the last couple of months about living through the Tower card and still going through it and having to learn the lessons of letting go of the things that are holding me back. I've been learning some lessons from the tomato plants this last week. My mom knew that when we were moving up here, we wouldn't have the chance to grow tomatoes in the ground. It'd be too late to get them out. And so she picked out 2 beautiful tomato plants and have been growing them in pots, taking great care of them, showing them a lot of love, nutrition, water, taking amazing care of them. And we brought them up here to the new place on the last round. So about a week ago, they came up here. They had to ride in the bed of a truck. We covered them, tried to keep them, as safe as possible during the transit. But it sure was a shakeup for him, having to move that far away and, growing them in pots. I don't know if y'all have grown tomatoes before, but they can be pretty finicky if they're not in the ground. So they were looking really beautiful before the move. They were bushy and full. There were tons of blooms on them, which is what, the tomatoes start out as. So it was looking like it was going to be a really good harvest this year with them. Well, a few days ago, I went out to check on them whenever I was watering them and realized that the big tomatoes that were starting to come out all were rotten on the bottom. And I was really upset because I know how hard my mom had worked to take care of them and get them started for us. And took pictures of them, sent out an SOS to all my plant nerd friends, and we found out that it's something that's called blossom end rot that they were suffering from. And the research that we did showed that it's actually a problem of not getting enough calcium from the soil to the fruit. And that most likely it's not an issue of a calcium deficiency in the soil, but of inconsistent watering. And, obviously they had a big shock. It had actually been very dry up here, which is rare for the summer. We've been watering them consistently for the last week, doing what we can to try to get them back on track. But it made me think about all of the transitions that I've been going through and that my husband and I have been going through. And I'm having a lot of struggles right now with landing the right job and feeling inadequate. And I feel like I'm like the tomatoes right now. I have been doing what I know how to do to survive. I've been getting through day by day. I've been working really hard. I've been pushing forward. But I've not been looking inside. I've not been taking care of myself from the inside. I've not been consistent with my care for myself. I've not been eating breakfast every day. I've not been doing my regular workout routines. I've not been sitting in silence and listening to what Spirit has to say. I've just been pushing through. And all of my close friends have been telling me that the reason that I haven't landed a job yet is because I'm not ready. My job right now is to learn how to take care of me. That was part of this move and this transition, was to give myself a new life. It's time to stop worrying about taking care of everybody else and focus on me for a bit. I feel like that's a really powerful lesson from the land here. And I feel like that's part of the generational trauma coming from a family of farmers. My grandfather bought this property in 1943. He worked really hard at getting this farm going. He had a dairy and Clydesdale horses and a grain farm. And he worked so hard that he died from a heart attack around the age of 40. He left a beautiful family, a wife and 4 children. My dad, who was only 10 years old at the time and the oldest. And they had to sell the cows, the horses, and a good portion of the land just to make the payments. My grandmother, who had never even driven a car before, had to go work at the nursing home so she could have a job to support her family. My dad, when he turned 18, he left this place to try to make a better life for himself. He joined the army during the Vietnam War. He served in Korea and in Panama. And he decided then that he never wanted someone that was stupider than him telling him what to do. So he went to Purdue University, my alma mater, became a pharmacist. And after he had worked as a pharmacist, he worked his way through medical school. And he became a doctor. He was a good doctor and one of the smartest men I know. But his passion was in farming. When I was 10 years old, we moved to a little farm. We had 7 acres that had nothing done on it yet. It was just an open pasture. So we built the fences. We ran the water lines. We built a barn. We got the cows. One of the nurses that he worked with was really involved in the 4-H program and talked him into buying us each a pig so we could show them in 4-H. That became my passion. After the first year of showing, I was hooked. I showed pigs for 9 years. I became a pork ambassador, which is a leadership program within the Swine Project. I studied animal sciences at Purdue with a concentration in swine management. I met my husband in 4-H. It was all such an integral part of how I grew up. And as we all graduated high school and moved out of the house and everything, my dad developed a passion for hay. And for those of you that raise animals, you know that cows and horses need to eat hay. But the hay became his passion, even more than the cows. He would go to the neighbors' houses all across the county and cut their hay in exchange for getting some of the hay after the harvest so we could feed it to our cows through the winter. But I never saw him happier than when he was on the tractor cutting hay. And when he was getting close to retirement, his dream was to come back here to this farm where he grew up. He worked with his sisters to slowly buy back the land that was sold off when his dad had passed. And they started working with a builder to build a small house with a barn attached on the property. And when he retired, they moved here. He seeded it with hay, the yard, where quote-unquote normal people would have had grass. There's 5 acres of alfalfa and clover. And if you've never seen alfalfa, it has the most beautiful blue-purple flowers. The clover has these beautiful pinkish purple flowers. And it's so pretty. And he said when he passed away, he wanted to be cremated and have his ashes spread in the hayfield. So that's what we did. We spread his ashes in the hayfield behind the house, where when he was sick, he would just sit on the back porch and watch the sunset and be at peace. And these are such big lessons for me as I'm coming back here to the property that his dad and him worked so hard to obtain, to keep, to upkeep. And now my brothers, 2 live out of state, and one's about an hour and a half away. We all have a passion for this land. No matter where we all go in life, we will always be tied to this land. But the lesson right now is that I have to take care of myself to make sure that I can be a good steward of this land. If I work so hard that I kill myself taking care of it, there won't be anyone else to take care of it. We want to maintain this beautiful place for my nieces and nephews. After my dad passed and my family was all here, my oldest nephew, Henry, was really interested in learning about the farm. After we spread the ashes, we went over to the barn where the animals were. And Mom showed him where his great-grandma and grandpa had lived. Sorry, had to take a break because the tractor was doing its work beside me, spraying the field with the herbicide. So anyway, after we spread the ashes, Henry was asking questions about the land. the crops that were growing and had been grown here, the animals that had been raised here. And so Mom and I took him across the street to the animal barn, and we stood in the place where his grandma and grandpa's house was. And my mom said, "One day, this will be your land." And his face lit up. He was so excited and so proud. "This will be mine?" "Yes, it will be yours and your brother and sister and your cousins." And that's why we have to work hard to take care of it for the future. Not only respecting our ancestors that have come before us, but respecting the future generations and who is going to come after us. I don't have any children, and I don't plan to. I don't think it's in the cards. But I cherish my nephews and my nieces so much. I want them to be able to know what it's like to have a connection to a piece of land. Be in the place where your grandfather and your great-grandfather worked so hard to build a life for themselves. Being a farmer isn't for the meek, the weak of heart. Besides all of the hard physical work, it's emotionally tolling. You're always wondering if you're doing the best that you can. Taking care of living things. The animals that are in your care. The crops. The land itself. I have so much respect for my ancestors that have done this work, and those around me that continue to. That's why it is my mission, my husband and I together, to raise animals in a respectful manner that are taken well care of, that are shown love and compassion, and have good quality feed, have a comfortable place to sleep, and are honored and revered for what they do for us. I want to give gratitude for my ancestors that have come before me. And I want to be a good ancestor and a good steward. To this land and to all those generations that come after me. During cancer season, reminds us the importance of home, but that home is not just a physical place. Home is that sense of belonging, of love and compassion that's within each of us. That's how we truly find home. If you jump back to The Wizard of Oz and think about Dorothy and her big adventure to try to go home, as she says, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home." She realizes at the end of her journey that she was home all along. Remember, you are already home. Another thing that I've been thinking about lately is fences. A good friend said the other day, fences aren't just built to keep things in, they're also built to keep things out. And I feel like a lot in protection magic, we think, it's big and sexy and we got to put up these big boundaries to keep all that negative stuff out and keep those things or those people over there. And sometimes we just need to look about keeping stuff in. Sometimes protecting our energy is making sure that we keep the good stuff for ourselves. That we aren't constantly giving away our energy and our power. Sometimes we need to keep some of that for ourselves. I think that's a big part about boundaries and self-care, is that we remember that we are important enough to save some of that care for.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Magical Aspirations. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Magical Aspirations to keep up with the latest and the greatest from Annalisa, Adriana, and Reverend Raven, and to join in on the Magical Aspirations conversations. Come check out our website, magicalaspirations.com, to find bonuses from our guests, our Magical Aspirations blog, and to reach out to our magical hosts with questions, comments, reviews, or ideas for future episodes. We are so grateful for each and every one of you listening. Thank you again, and as always, stay true to your magic.